So it's not business as usual for journalists in Kenya. If he is not indisciplined and uncouth, then we don't know what Charles Kioko is. The headmaster of St. Stephen's Girls' School in Machakos incited his students to attack our journalists Caroline B., Boniface Magana, and driver Immaculate Joseph, who had gone to the school seeking information about the disappearance of a student. The entire school, following the direction of their headmaster Charles Kioko, descended on our crew, beating them up and chasing them away from the premises. The hooligans also destroyed our equipment. They would not allow our news crew to leave with our vehicle. Caroline B., Boniface Magana, and Immaculate Joseph sustained serious injuries. Had to believe that students are responsible for this barbaric act. And even harder is that this man, Charles Kioko, under whose care the parents have placed their children, saw it fit to incite his students to this extent. He had an option of refusing to comment or even asking our journalists to leave. Instead, he decided to attack. Now, is this the man that the parents expect to instill discipline in their children? Is this the man responsible for leading the education of these children? What example is he given, and would he really be considered as an upright citizen? Caroline B., Boniface Magana, and Immaculate Joseph have sought treatment for their injuries and reported the incident to the police. We wish them quick recovery. Even as we begin this show this evening, The Big Story, it's also important to just mention that our official vehicle was burnt by the students. So you can imagine, girls' school beating up journalists and burning an official car. That is a story that we will still focus on for you on our primetime bulletin, and we have lots of developing information about it as well. So let's take you back to our big story this evening. And we are touching on something that is on the minds of several Kenyans. It is now a year since President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered a lifestyle audit for all public servants in his renewed war against corruption. According to the president's directive, procurement officers and heads of accounting units were to undergo fresh vetting, including taking a lie detector test. Tonight, hundreds of public servants have been pocketing salaries for at least 1 year for work not done. The government is yet to finalize the exercise and direct the workers to resume work or sack them. This directive was challenged in court, though. The court ruling that mass suspension and paying public servants at the same time was unconstitutional. But this is not the first time policies have come back to haunt President Uhuru's government. Even as we speak, petitions have been filed to challenge the newly launched banknotes. This is the big story. And that lifestyle audit and those officials, accountants and procurement officers that were sent home in the name of lifestyle audits, we did mention that some of them have been receiving the salaries for the last 1 year. It is a conversation we'll be having this evening with, of course, our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna, who will be speaking to Opio Wandai, who's the chair of Public Accounts Committee. We also have Professor George Wajakoya, who's a lawyer, but he's also well-versed in several issues and matters of importance in the country. We'll also be speaking to Engineer Chris Owanda, who's the chair, Kenya Institute of Supplies Management. But for now, let me take you to our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna. Sophia, can you hear me?
Good evening, Linda. So today we saw in the Standard newspaper a reminder for all Kenyans, President Uhuru Kenyatta's announcement last year in the Madaraka Day celebrations at the time that all accounting officers step aside pending investigations. And this was seen as a big move to help just deal with individuals who are in that line as far as the leakages concerned from public money. And so 1 year later, it's an exercise that has if at all, been conducted under great mystery, secrecy. We do not know exactly who are the individuals who are undertaking these exercises. Remember at the time we heard about the lie detector test. Did they come? Were these accounting officers taken through this test? And what did they find? So we now hear quite a number of them have been cleared and are back to work. There's a substantial number that continues to be at home. However, they're all been receiving salaries for all those 12 months. But important again, Linda, to notice in all this, the time this move was announced, Okiya Omtata moving to court, an activist, and the judge finding that this move was unconstitutional to unilaterally, I beg your pardon, on MERS, have all of these accounting officers sent home, and that it should have been on one-to-one basis based on evidence or suspicion that then would have been investigated and interrogated, and also a hefty cost for the taxpayer that people have been paid for the past year without any work done, and there are still those who continue to get their paychecks every end of the month. So this evening, for a little bit of more understanding and perspective, I'm joined by the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee in the National Assembly, Opiyo Wandayi. Thank you, sir, for making time for us. You've heard what I've just mentioned there. I wonder what you make of this all, because at the time it was received with, wow, perhaps this is where the problem is and we're going to see it being fixed. Do you now see it as a populist move by the government that has amounted to nothing?
Well, first and foremost, I think the president meant well, and I still believe he means well even as we speak. The only problem I think we have in this country is the entrenchment of a system of cartels that would actually stop any good intentions of the government. Because, as you know, most of these people have been in the system for too long, and they are not very easy to deal with. Yeah, we are dealing with here with impunity, which has been entrenched for many years. So what we need is for the president to master the courage and deal with these issues decisively. Because we see a situation where there are two steps forward and one step backwards.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, it is a culture of wastefulness. Because once somebody has been suspected of not being honest in their work, of not being up to speed with the issues that they're supposed to deal with, the most logical thing to do is to initiate a process of easing out that person, rather than buying time with this new phenomenon called stepping aside.
Right. But I find that statement you make, Chair, problematic, that the president means well and that it's cartels letting him down. That's rather vague. At the end of the day, he came out and announced to the country that this exercise needed to take place and said that it would be individuals, officers, senior in the investigative agencies and others in his administration that would undertake this exercise. So the buck surely does stop with the president.
The buck, of course, stops with the president. But then how would you explain a situation where the president continues to issue tough edicts day in, day out without clear follow-up actions? Okay? Either.
Some say lame duck.
Well, that could also be a factor. But you see, the president in his first term kind of left the government to run under the management of people whom he trusted. Okay? He's only tried to assert himself in this second term, okay? And he's finding it rough, because of what I've said earlier on, the issue of entrenchment, of impunity. So there's also politics in it, because, you know, any time people have been acted upon, specific persons have been acted upon, even just being investigated, you see a lot of outcry from many quarters. Oh, this is political. So I think the president is facing a lot of challenges, but I think he should not give up. Yeah, what we need as a country, under the spirit of the 2010 Constitution, is transparency. For instance, by now we should have been told, out of the many people who are told to step aside, how many have come back? And on what basis have they come back? Okay? And how many are still out there? And for how long will they continue to be out there? And again, more importantly, for how long can a public officer or servant continue to draw salaries and benefits while not working? Okay? These are very weighty issues that need to be addressed. If there is a lacuna, there's some vacuum, some gap in the law, then it needs to be addressed, because there's no way our system can sustain a situation where people get paid and they won't work. Yes, that is not really possible. It's not possible, yeah.
Because, yes, we hear the president, and that at the time when he said we need to vet afresh these officers, that the courts found unconstitutional to have been done in bulk, all of them, everybody step aside. The decision, yes, was appealed, but there was no stay order, so that as it stands, sir, the state is in contempt.
Yes, and for the reason that the matter is in court, I wouldn't want to talk much about it. Yes, I believe that in the final analysis, the court.
But we have a government disobeying court orders. They have not gotten a stay. So contempt in and of itself, that was a decision of the High Court. Now it's been appealed, but the appeal has yet to set aside the decision because that has to be granted. But they are disobeying court orders.
I don't have the particulars of the case or the matter, but if it is true that the court did issue an order, the first thing that the government has to do, without really an option, is to obey the court order. Yeah, there are no two ways about it, because we are living under the rule of law. Yes, and we must all be subject to the law, without any exception.
Yes.
And so, if there's anyone in government who has to obey the court orders, then they should know that the law can actually deal with them.
Right.
Yes, yes.
But it appears many times they get away with it without much of a repercussion or implication. But I wonder, as chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, paint for us a picture when we have accounting officers across the board in government and public institutions asked to leave office. It's now been 1 year largely for most of these offices. What does this portend for those institutions? What does it usually mean?
Well, it basically means that we are encouraging paralysis. Yes, as you know, most of these officers have been trained over time. They have got a wealth of experience. And in many cases, you find that there's no clear succession plans, from what I've seen in public service. Mm-hmm. Yes, because sometimes these promotions are done haphazardly. Yes, based on nepotism, based on other considerations. Yes, and therefore, when you find a large group of people being sent away at a go, you notice a problem. And I've been seeing this as a chair of Public Accounts Committee. Right. When officers come before me to account for their expenditures, and the standard answer or response you get is that we were not there, we are new in the department, that those who are there have since left or they are out. All sorts of excuses. Yes, and therefore I don't even agree with the fact that you need to send people at home en masse. There must be a system that monitors the performance of every single public officer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because one of the other things that was highlighted at the time is this is to curb the leakages, as I said earlier, in public service. So whether it's the officers making public the procurements, the agreements, the deals rather, in a port online. But also talk to me about IFMIS, because an audit was conducted by the Auditor General, found humorous holes and gaps that allowed for this system to be manipulated. In fact, now he's talking about doing another audit because it appears those issues have not been fixed. So is the government even looking in the right place in fixing corruption in public service?
Well, you know, first and foremost, that corruption is domiciled in the procurement system, by and large. That is the home of corruption, procurement, if I may call it so. But having said that, I don't want to blame IFMIS wholesome. IFMIS, just like any other system, cannot be 100% foolproof. And again, as a system, it depends largely on those who manage it or those who use it. Okay? I've seen agencies or departments which have had no issues at all with IFMIS when they appear before me to address the issues raised by the Auditor General in their accounts. Whereas there are others which continually blame IFMIS. And as I've seen, even the county governments, that is a standard excuse, IFMIS. So, whereas I cannot absolve IFMIS, I do not believe that IFMIS is the cause of all the problems we are facing. Yeah. Yes, in the public finance management.
And of course, as a system, it doesn't do anything in and of itself. It's individuals operating IFMIS. So talk to me then about accountability in where it is premised and based. Treasury. Is your committee, do you think there is enough being done to hold them to account that if we're going to keep having issues year in, year out, then there's a serious problem the individuals there are not dealing with? So isn't it time to hold the individuals in charge of IFMIS to account?
You know, not just IFMIS alone. If we have got accountability mechanisms in our public finance management system that cuts across the board, what we are lacking is the will to enforce those mechanisms, is to make them work. If they are made to work, we would have very little issues. I'm not saying that we can eliminate all the problems. Never happened, not even in the West. Yeah, we still have issues, yes, with public finance management.
Yes.
But at least we can reduce them because they are a big drain on public coffers.
Yes.
Yes.
So where will this will come from, sir? As you mentioned, Public Finance Management Act is largely, it sounds nowadays as a piece of suggestions and that are disregarded left, right, and center with no implications, consequences for failure to adhere.
First of all, we need what we call political will. That is important, the political will to deal with these issues. That was lacking in the last term of the president. This time it is there. And that will must come
But
from
is
the
it,
very
sir,
top.
is it, sir, because talking about something or warning people or reprimanding and cautioning is not political will? It could be theatrics, it could be PR.
Well, I'm just giving the president the benefit of doubt. And I'm saying this again because I know that after the handshake, there's been a lot of push to address the issues that we have been talking about over the years. But then, you see, fighting corruption or fighting rot in the public service cannot be an on and off affair. It must be sustained, and you must inculcate the culture of discipline in the system. Otherwise, if it is something left to the whims of one person or two persons, then if that person sleeps on the job, then the whole thing collapses. So we need to inculcate a culture of accountability. And I've said this has to start from the top. Nothing can ever happen without the political will.
Yeah.
And from the very top, And so that the message percolates down, goes down to the very bottom. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for making time for us. Opio Wandai is a chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, and he says that political will must start from the very top and it to percolate down for there to be real changes because, Linda, a lot has been said, at least, of course, coming from the president himself. There have been many warnings about this, many pronouncements about what would be done. But here's another clear case. 1 year later, officers are out there still earning salaries, and we do not know what happened in that period of time. The government that announced this owes it to Kenya what this process brought out, if at all, anything. But at the end of the day, Linda, also important to mention before I hand it back to you, is we did seek comment from government. And in fact, even the deputy head of the public service promises to get back to us, that they were consulting. Those have since proven unfruitful. And so we'll wait to see whether at a different point they will be able to comment on this issue, because this matter is squarely lying in their camp, Linda.
I actually think they should. They should comment because, one, you have people who've been earning a salary for an entire year, people who are put on suspension. And then you have that issue of lifestyle audit that President Uhuru Kenyatta alluded to. Very little has been seen about it. As a matter of fact, it has gone mute. So let's listen in to what the president had to say on the matter of lifestyle audit.
Na ndipo tumesema hii mambo ya watu kuiba mali ya Wakenya, haki ya Mungu itaisha katika taifa la Kenya. Ule wa kwanza kufanyiwa lifestyle audit ni mimi, kwa sababu mimi ndio mfanyikazi number 1. Si ndio hiyo? Yes. Mimi, alafu tuende kwa huyu, alafu tuende kwa governor, alafu tuende kwa Masharia. Kila mtu aseme hii maisha unaishi kwa njia gani? Hii pesa unatoa wapi? Na kama huna jibu, kuna mwingine kamiti anakugojea huko na atakupatia jibu yako.
Prof, let me begin with you. So the president said there will be a lifestyle audit. People have to be accountable for what they own and make it public. This hasn't happened. As a matter of fact, we are now reporting that you have individuals who've been taking a salary for an entire year for doing absolutely nothing. What are your thoughts?
Very much, Linda. The president is at its weakest. Kenya's presidency is very, very weak. And let me start by doing an analogy of comparison with the presidency in the United States. In the US, we have two kinds of presidencies. We have weak president and we have strong president. Weak president who works under the Constitution of the United States. A strong president who works under the executive powers conferred by Congress. Now, when you come to our president, it seems as if he works without a clear, coherent policy. From what he has done or what he's doing of late, you'll find that he has the best speech writers in the world at State House who write speeches for him without consideration, without policy, without looking at the Constitution. And whatever he comes out with, like talking of auditing and lie detectors, they are not enshrined or anchored in the Constitution. So whatever he says is likely or is likely to be struck by the courts of law. So the wayside statements that the president is talking about are lame, dark statements, and the president has lost it. He's very weak, and I don't know what to say more.
Engineer. Engineer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Linda.
So quick comment. Can I get your quick comment? These people have been earning a salary for a year. The president says we will do a lifestyle audit. A couple of years have gone by. Kenyans seem to think that there's very little that has been done in the fight against corruption. And there are those who think that even by suspending the accountants, the government was pointing a finger, an accusing finger at people who it should not have.
First and foremost, we see from comments, especially the ones that were made by Honorable Opiyo Wandayi, that generalization is a hallmark of how Kenyans judge things and trends. But for us as professionals, it's important to stick to facts, and it's important for us to run by the facts. As the chair of the procurement community in Kenya, I just want to confirm to you that that audit, that lifestyle audit, that very thorough investigation that took place and targeted the heads of procurement and accounting units did show that our people were committed to be investigated, and they subjected themselves to that investigation. I don't know the outcome of very many others, especially the accountants, but I can tell you for sure that that investigation, that vetting did prove that quite a number, the significant majority of procurement officers were actually found to be fit for purpose. The majority of them went back to work and they're earning their salary. We don't know what happened to the majority of the other people who are said to be at home. Nobody knows the exact number. But from my membership, from the procurement community, I can assure you that the majority of them, by far over 90%, are back in the office. And that to me demonstrated that this wide perception that is generally held that procurement is the home of corruption in Kenya is actually a big misnomer. Number one. Number two, you've seen from recent trends that the big shots who are being hauled into jails on Friday, being released by the following Wednesday, are not procurement officers.
Okay.
They are actually people who reside in other echelons of power.
All right, hold on.
This is an opportunity for us to demonstrate that this abuse of perception that procurement officers have been at the center of corruption in this country is a myth that we need to do away with.
All right, hold on, Engineer. Let me take a break here on The Big Story. We'll be back having this conversation with Professor George Wajakoya and Engineer Chris Owanda. Let's take that break now. The Big Story will be back.